So it's day 7, Sunday, January the 23rd, 22nd, 23rd, 22nd. Sitting on top of a little rocky mountain, sheltering behind a boulder and an acacia tree, just trying to kill the wind so it doesn't ruin the podcast. But it's the shadows are quite long. It's 20 to 5. We've got an hour till sunset, and another long day, but another amazing day as we progress southwest towards Jeddah. Delighted, first of all, to say that Anna's on the mend, still not 100% and coughing endlessly in her tent at night, poor girl, but much better. So we're all moving in the right direction in terms of health. Reem and I left the camp this morning at just about an hour and a quarter after sunrise, about 8 o'clock-ish, and several hours more progress across an enormous flat plain which just seemed to go on and on and on, really, and the features on the other side just didn't seem to get much closer. But whilst we were doing that, Anna put up the drone and filmed us, and if you can hear a high-pitched noise in the background to this recording, that's the drone up now. But then she and Alan went back to the site that where we discovered the old ancient axe heads yesterday, which was such an exciting end to the day. And unsurprisingly, because yesterday when we found those axe heads, we were in a rush to find a campsite before it got dark. With a bit more time on their hands and slightly different angles to the sunlight, they found many more. So it was clearly a really prolific site, probably a place where people manufactured hand stone axes, because there were just so many of them in such a small location. So we're not going to share the location with anyone other than the team at the Ministry of Culture and the Heritage Commission here in Saudi Arabia, and Michael Petralia and his team who work on the Green Arabia project. All of the axe heads remain in situ. We don't remove or touch anything. But what did happen sort of early afternoon today was that we've travelled all day, I would say, until about 2 o'clock, without seeing a single living thing, human, camel, nothing, just a real expanse of desert, and totally deserted desert. And but eventually we reached a road, and we turned left along that road to find a small petrol station, which thankfully had some fuel, because it's pretty remote and they don't always have fuel. But it also had a mobile phone signal, and we were able to use that to post some images of those artifacts onto social media. And fantastic, literally within 5 minutes. My question: can any experts out there shed any light on how old these things are that we found yesterday? We had our answer from the experts, and the answer is amazingly between 200,000 to 400,000 years old, possibly even older. So those things that we stood over yesterday, possibly 500,000 years old, and I find it incredibly difficult to comprehend all of that enormity of time. So again, just I think, like I mentioned in my podcast yesterday, I did walk when I got out of my sleeping bag this morning. I walked quietly back. I didn't want to wake the others. I walked quietly back to the lake bed, and I stood over the hand axe that one of the main ones that we'd found yesterday, and just tried to imagine who had squatted there chipping that and shaping that tool, and the hand that last held it. And just very fantastic moment. Philby never mentioned any he travelled through an area of extraordinary archaeological heritage, but that was not one of the things that really grabbed his attention, but much else did. He described this vast tract of land over which Reem and I have trekked today, and then Alan and Anna, we covered more ground in the vehicles this afternoon when we reached this this road. He described the highland tract of the immense steppe of Shifa, and that's what we've walked across today. With the exception of a few low hummocks scattered over the gravel plain, not a landmark was to be seen in all its expanse, until we came into view of the sand barrier of Uruq Subai. And that's where I'm sitting right now, because this is the last great challenge, driving-wise really, in our progress southwest to Jeddah. It's an enormous line of dunes. Philby estimated, so Philby camped pretty much here on December the 20th, 1917. And as far as he could work out by talking to his Bedouin companions, these dunes that I'm sitting on now, 70 miles long. So imagine where you live and find somewhere 70 miles away, and it's nothing but enormous sand dunes between here and there, without a road. And so that's where I am right now, and 12 miles across. That was what he estimated. So, you know, it's the end of a long day. We're all tired. You know, being in the sun really does drain your energy. So we all do sleep very well at night, and to try and cross this final barrier now would be probably tempting fate, and we do not want to get the vehicle stuck and have to get sand ladders and shovels out at this time of the day. So we've just nosed into the sand a wee bit, about a kilometre. We found an old Bedouin track. We've turned up a little valley to shelter us from the wind. We're going to camp here tonight and recharge our batteries, and then try and work our way through this band of sand called Uruq Subai first thing tomorrow morning, when the temperatures are lower. When the temperatures are lower, the sand is harder, so it's easy to drive, but also it means when you get stuck, it's just not such draining work trying to dig people out and push and all that kind of stuff. So Philby reached here December the 20th. He camped just on the edge. We're not sure exactly where he camped, but he described this vast plain that Reem and I walked across this morning by saying the storms of winter and summer pass over it unarrested. From the Hijaz Mountains, they're the mountains that lie ahead of us beyond these dunes between us and Jeddah, to the Najd Highlands. Those are the big mountain after mountain lines of mountains that we've crossed over the last 4 or 5 days. And rain falls upon it, but at rare intervals. The showers which had drenched us so recently had left this place dry, and it was said that this vast arid plain had had no fall of rain for several years. And, you know, I suspect that might be the case now, because there was not a single indication. There wasn't a single bit of greenery anywhere. Lie on your tummy, get down to ground level and have a look. You can't see anything green. So probably similar situation today as it was in 1917. Everywhere, Philby said, was the same unvaried desolation of gravel. Black and brown and grey, with never a bush and scarce a blade of withered grass. Yet they tell of years when the flocks and herds of the Bedouin swarm over the steppe to graze on the luxuriant herbs which a light shower draws from its virgin soil. Well, there's absolutely no sign of that today, so it was nice to get to the end of the plain, and here we are. We're in a good position for tomorrow. I think we're beyond hand axe country now, but the key for tomorrow is to overcome this barrier of the Uruq Subai. Probably now we are 2 days away from a settlement called Kurma, and 4 days away from the large settlement of Taif, and we're going to stay at this altitude of about 3,000 to 3,500 feet for the next 2 or 3 days, and then a real upward slog to Taif, which is at about 5,500 to 6,000 feet above sea level. And Philby spent a couple of days in Taif, so we're looking forward to seeing the community there and possibly having a wash, which might be quite nice after 7 or 8 days. Ornithologically, and if you listen to the podcast, you might know that I do try and keep a note of the birds. Today was fairly sparse, to be honest. There was not much in the middle of that enormous plain of steppe, and the wind was so strong that the sand was really flying pretty unpleasantly. So not much around until we stopped for lunch, and some swallows like we have at home. A couple of swallows flitting around, which was lovely, and a beautiful harrier glided past, whether it was a pallid or a Montague harrier, I'm not sure, but a beautiful silver harrier with black wingtips, glided past. But now it's all silent. There's not a bird singing. The only sound I can hear is the wind whistling through the trees around me. Within an hour, the first stars will be out and we'll settle down for another night. Night 7. We're just about 75% of the way through now our journey, our Heart of Arabia journey from Algiers to Jeddah. So trying to make the most of absolutely every day. I've no idea whether I can send this podcast out now. We did drive past a gold mine about 20 minutes before we entered the sand, and I think I did see a flash of a bar on my phone. So I'm going to walk to the top of a nearby hill and see if I can pick up a signal to send this podcast out.